All right, let's take a look at our last set of notes for Unit 10, 10.3. We are going to actually look at the warm-up together because it's been a minute since we have talked about this. So it says, which statements are true? Select 3 correct answers. So I'm going to go ahead and go through these. It says the axis of symmetry is at y equals -3. Well, let's go check that. Let's see. Remember, the axis of symmetry is the line that goes right through the center of the graph. Okay, so let's see. It is at -3, but -3 on which axis? Not the y-axis. So that is not true. Okay, that's not it. All right, let's see. The y-intercept of the graph is 0, 3. Remember, the y-intercept is where it crosses on the y-axis. So let's go see 0. So remember, we go left and right first. So we stay at 0. And we go up 1, 2, 3. And sure enough, I agree. So yes, true. All right, let's see. The maximum of the function is 8. Remember, the maximum is where the tip of our graph, tip top of our graph is. So let's see. Here's the tip top of our graph. And it looks like it is at 8. So true. So we already have 2 correct answers. We need 1 more. The axis of symmetry is at x equals -3. Well, look, we already said that. So you know that's true. Perfect, but let's double check these last 2 just to make sure. There is no minimum because our graph is going this way, right? We have a maximum. And the function has 1, 0. Remember, 0 is where it crosses the x-axis, and you have 1 and 2. So that is not it. And those are your 3 correct answers. So if you see something like this on your test this week, try to go over some of these key points of a graph. All right, we're still talking about quadratics, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the quadratic formula. Now, we haven't done this yet, and this will be on your star chart, okay? This is not going to, when you take the STAR test, it will not be right here for you. It will be on the star chart, but that's okay because we'll be able to find it on there. This is what you're using, and it's important to note the letters that we have here. So it says minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and all of that is divided by 2 times a. So when we look at a quadratic in its standard form, it's laid out like ax squared plus bx plus c. So when you see each of those, you should be able to say, okay, well, let's see, this is in standard form, so I know that this is my A, I know that this is my B, and I know that this is my C because it follows this standard form right here. So when I go to plug everything into this quadratic formula, all I have to do is take the letters that I see here. Okay, but notice there's a difference between example 1 and example 2. What is the difference between example 1 and example 2? What is not the same? Example 1 is perfectly in standard form, but what's wrong with example 2? It is not quite in standard form because look at our C. It's on the other side of the equal sign. How could we get that to the correct side? How we always solve, right? For x's, we are just going to be able to move that over by doing the opposite operation. So I would be able to say, well, the opposite of subtracting 3 would be to add 3. So I'm going to do that to each side. And then that gives me 4x squared plus 8x plus 3, not minus 3, is equal to 0. So now they're both perfectly in standard form, and I can even label it, right? This is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. And now all I have to do is plug in. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at example 1 together, and then you will try example 2 on your own, okay? And I'm going to use a different color here. You will try example 2 on your own, but let's look at example 1 together. So remember, all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it into this quadratic formula. So it starts out with negative b. Well, remember, b is 3. So I'm going to say, all right, negative 3. Okay? Plus or minus. Now, it needs to stay just like that. Plus, minus. Okay? And we will go over what to do with that here in just a second. Then we have a square root. It's important you do not forget the square root. It's part of the problem. We have to include it. Then it says b squared. Well, remember, b is 3, so I put 3 squared. Minus, now, minus 4, so minus 4, okay? And because we're multiplying, I'm actually going to put a in parentheses. So remember, it says it right here. It's 2, so 2. And then I'm going to close that parentheses. Okay, and then it says times c. So now I'm going to put c in parentheses. But notice, c is 20, but what is right in front of that 20 there? Negative. So we have to include that. So we have to say negative 20. We can't forget that part. Okay? Then all of this is divided by 2 times a, which we said was 2. And there you go. You have plugged everything in. And I'm going to use some different colors here. So let's see. A is 2. So we plugged it in. Everywhere it said there was an A. So here and here. So make sure, yep, 2, 2. Perfect. We plugged B in. Everywhere it said to put a B. So right here, here. So make sure, yep, 3, 3. Perfect. Okay. Then our C, there's only one C, but we still made sure to plug it in there. Here's our C, here's our C, here's our C. Okay. So you plugged everything in how it was supposed to go. Now we're going to solve. Now this looks like a real doozy to solve. It's very long, but that's okay because we're going to do it little by little. Okay. The first thing we're going to take care of is we're going to take care of what is inside of that square root. We do that, but we're going to take care of the multiplication first, okay? So you can solve 3 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 20. Just take it step at a time. You can do the exponents first if you would like to, right? We know that 3 squared is what? And I'm going to just move it down with me, right? Remember, we're not going to change this minus 3 or this plus or minus yet. We're not going to change this 2 divided by 2 times 2, okay? But 3 squared turns into 9, because I know 3 times 3 is 9. Now, minus, okay, what is 4 times 2? 8, right? What is 8 times negative, oh goodness, times negative 20? What is 8 times negative 20? Think about it. Negative 160. Now, even though we already put a minus there, you need to include this minus 160. Okay? Now we can solve 9 minus negative 160. But can I subtract a negative number? I can't. So what happens is this actually turns into a plus sign. And 9 plus 160 would give me 169. And then I didn't do anything with that minus 3 or that plus or minus. And I didn't do anything with that 2 times 2, but I know that 2 times 2 is 4. So we're solving one thing at a time. Now you're really close to being completely finished. Sometimes we won't be able to solve what's inside of a square root, and we'll have to leave it as a square root. But we need to use our friend Desmos and see if we can solve the square root. So I'm going to do square root 169, and look at that, it is 13. So now the problem becomes minus 3. Sorry, running out of room here. Nope, that's confusing. I'm just going to go a little lower. Minus 3 plus or minus 13, because I solved that square root, divided by 4. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because if you'll remember from our previous notes, when that plus or minus is there, that actually means we're going to split it. You need to have both. You need to have one that says plus 13, and then you need to have one that says minus 13. Okay, so you want both options. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for both, and we're going to say, oh, 1 second, I lost my spot here. So I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to come over here. Let's use a different color. So I have -3 plus 13 divided by 4. And I have -3 minus 13 divided by -4. Okay, you have to have both. And then you can solve. Well, I know that -3 and 13 together are what? 10. So really it's 10 divided by 4. And then over here I have -3 and -13. Well, if I put -3 and -13 together, that's -16 divided by 4. And now I can solve. Now, if you don't know what 10 divided by 4 is, guess what? You can use your best friend Desmos, and you can say 10 divided by 4, and it tells me, oh, got a little excited there, 2.5. Okay, so your first solution is 2.5. And hopefully we know that -16 divided by 4 is -4. So your other solution is -4, and we can double check to make sure that these solutions are correct, just like we did in our last set of notes, by saying 2x squared plus 3x minus 20. And let's take a look. Let's zoom out here. We have one at -4, perfect, and we have one at 2.5. Perfect, and those are your two solutions. You are going to try example 2 on your